While the falling price of oil is a holiday gift for many of us here in the United States, the Russian president is more like a lump of coal in his Christmas stocking. With the ruble and rubble and stocks tumbling, forecasters are predicting a deep recession and 25% inflation. Well, during a 3-hour news conference, Putin accused the West of trying to chain up the Russian bear. He promises to triumph over the sanctions and cure his country's economic freefall. Well, our good friend Steve Acunto, Chancellor of the Consular Corps College, is with us again. Steve, what can Putin do to make things better for the people over there in Russia?
It's a strange thing to say about Vladimir Putin, but he has a confidence problem. He has to sell the concept of a long and difficult time period economically, potentially a recession. He's got to sell that. He has to refocus the nation on security needs, because his biggest expense is military in nature, billions in military, and at the same time has to convince everyone that it's really not the sanctions that are working against him, although obviously it is.
Well, I got to ask you, is he still hanging 10 on the wave of popular support from the Russian people, or are the Russian people beginning to feel this pinch of these sanctions?
No, I have to tell you, we said some time ago, wait until the caviar runs out. It's still there, and he still has the confidence of the people. I think hardship, is very often a form of motivation and coming together. In some countries it works. In Russia, that's the case. I don't think he has a long time to sell this, but he still has their confidence.
Okay, but you got to admit, probably now with the ruble going at all-time lows right now,
yes.
Things are going to change.
It's a mess.
Well, let's move on to some foreign policy on the stands of Putin right now. Obviously, there's a lot of popular support, Steve, because of the fact that these satellite countries are not there. Some Russians would like these people to come back. I'm wondering, is he softening his stance on Ukraine at this point, or are we just reporting on it less now?
No, he is softening his stance. And the reason for that is the sanctions on Crimea, which are also, the European Union cutting off tourism to Crimea is essentially crippling that economy. He's got the Lithuanians and others up in the 3 states up north arming themselves, having military drills and such. He's got unhappy Ukrainians for the most part, and he's got world opinion against him. So he is softening. He just sent aid to Donetsk, in fact, in a rather magnanimous gesture. But I don't think he has a choice. He's got to do that.
Okay, well, no choice, obviously, because of the fact that there are sanctions from the West. And, of course, I think NATO's response to all this as well, strengthening up their forces on some of the borders here. But let's go back to the economy. He's talking about diversifying the economy. With the sanctions that are facing Russia right now, what can he possibly do to diversify the economy that's pretty much in shambles right now?
He really can't do much. 50% of the budget is based upon oil. 60% of the exports are oil. Now, he just signed a deal with China for a 30-year deal for the provision of natural gas. But that's their stock and trade, energy. Now, we don't have a technology sector growing there. We don't have some of the product mixes that are most useful for other European countries. So as a consequence, he's leaning on energy. Big mistake.
Okay, there's this old saying, I'm sure you've heard it, that no man is an island unto himself here. But
yes.
Right now, it seems like Russia is a big island unto themselves, unless perhaps they can depend perhaps a little bit more on China.
I don't think they can. Obama conducted business with China on 4 key points. The only thing Vladimir Putin accomplished during that period was a 30-year gas deal. But he really wasn't at the table. He was, again, isolated, to use your island-like expression. I don't think he's got a lot of friends right now. And he's selling this. The latest thing he's selling is that the U.S. opened up the doors to Cuba because the sanctions were absurd and foolish. I mean, 50 years of sanctions. He's really got a hard sale on his hands, and he is quite alone, by the way.
People are likening him to a thug. Lastly here, I just got to ask you, the presidential election in 2018, any real opposition to Vladimir?
There could be in 2 years. He held out the idea that for 2 more years there's going to be hardship. If at the end of 2 years there isn't some curve upward, I think we'll be looking at some kind of groundswell, and maybe one of his foreign ministers, although they're very, very loyal to him. I mean, I can't imagine breaking ranks that easily. It would have to be very serious to have a groundswell against him.
I will tell you, Steve, that money changes everything, sir.
Yes, it does. It does indeed.
Steve Acunto, as always, thank you,
Merry
sir.
Christmas to you.
You too, sir.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, just ahead, we'll look at how oil is putting the skids on Nigeria's economy. You're watching Arise Review.